Who makes your car? Think you know who owns the company that built your car? And you have no doubts where it's produced, right? Well, it might be time to think again, because the worldwide web of car brand ownership and vehicle manufacturing has become even more tangled in recent years. Welcome, I'm CarsGuide Deputy Editor James Cleary, and joining me on the podcast panel to uncover who owns what and what's built where are key contributor Andrew Chesto,
the worldwide dark web here checking in,
and managing editor head of video, Matt Campbell.
G'day, how you going, everyone?
We'll also cover off this weekend news and take a look at a plug-in MG, a WRX on family duty, and a smooth as silk Genesis in Cars in the Garage. So stay with us. Right, we're looking at a Richard Berry news story, which pulls back the curtain on who owns the new car brands present in this market and where individuals are actually made. So I'm proposing a quick pop quiz to start us off. All right, it's time to play Who Makes Your Car. Matt and Chesto, buzz in with your name and feel free to play along at home. Okay, where are the following 10 cars made? Toyota Kluger.
Matt Campbell.
Yes.
After you, Matt.
It's made in the USA. Thank you, Chesto. I don't know where, though.
Princeton, Indiana.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Ford Ranger.
Chesto.
Chesto.
That's Thai special, is it not?
Rayong, Thailand. Volvo XC40.
Matt.
It's Matt.
China.
Yep. Lakiao, China.
Okay.
Merc GLS.
Chesto. That's made in the US, I believe, in Kentucky, maybe?
Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Tuscaloosa.
Jeep Compass.
Matt.
Matt.
Canada.
Ranjangaon, India.
What?
Yep. Tesla Model 3.
Chesto.
Chesto.
Depends where you live. Ours are made in China.
Shanghai, China.
That's right.
VW Amarok.
Chesto. Sorry.
Matt was first.
Currently, the current vehicle is made in Argentina, and some are from somewhere in Spain as well, I believe.
You did well. Trick question, because the current one, outgoing model, General Pacheco in Argentina, and the new one will be built in Silverton, South Africa.
Yeah, right.
Three more to go. Ford Puma.
Chesto. That is made, I believe, in I don't know.
Come on, mate. You had one for a long term. You should know this.
I can't remember. For some reason, I want to say Europe, but I think I might be going mad.
Crova, Romania.
Oh, there you go.
Romania.
BMW X5.
Matt. That's America.
Spartanburg, South Carolina.
That's the city of BMW SUVs.
In fact, yeah, you're right. X3, X4, X5, X6, X7, all hanging in there.
Yep.
Now, last one, BMW iX3.
Chesto, that's got to be Germany, the iX3.
Shenyang, China.
Oh, there you go.
How about that?
So there you go. Now, actually, Planes, Trains and Dogs and Cars says Panadol made in India. So very, very interesting.
Panadol?
But I suppose that little quiz, I don't know who won. I didn't even count up, but it just demonstrates the breadth of diversity in terms of where cars are manufactured. You tend to just go straight to, all right, it's a German brand, it's made in Germany, and that's so not the case. And speaking of BMW, they have I know, Chesto, you have a particular view on this. They say their cars are made in BMW. So they'll apply the same kind of rigor in terms of how their vehicles are put together, no matter where it is. And it's all about cost efficiency in terms of logistics and materials and labor with consistently high quality. And I think, Chesto, you had something to go on the end of that.
Only that I think, that sounds like marketing bollocks to me, because they're not going to say, oh, yeah, we're doing it. Look, the factories are rubbish, but my God, it's so much cheaper. They're not going to say that. But B, actually, in defense of that, I was reading some reports earlier today that said that actually BMW cars that aren't built in Germany tend to rank higher in JD Power survey, which is the initial quality surveys they give to owners, than BMWs that are made in Germany. Now, this was a few years ago. It might have changed. But it would suggest that, they are applying BMW style, perhaps even more BMW internationally than they are at home.
Well, look, here's another stat. So far, in terms of Australian new car registrations, so that's to the end of September, Japan is the number one in terms of a country of manufacture that's represented here. Thailand is number two. So 251,000 cars from Japan, 185,000 cars from Thailand.
Yeah, and a lot of that is driven by ute sales, obviously. Ford Ranger, Toyota Hilux, and it is strange that we've got all these vehicles coming from Thailand, including Isuzu, Mitsubishi. There's a lot of vehicles built in Thailand, but there's no Thai car company.
No.
Like
No.
it's kind of
I'll tell you
crazy
what.
that they've got all this expertise and state of the art manufacturing, but no
Well, that's fun to watch.
brand.
Maybe it's only a matter of time
That
until
number's-
someone puts two and two together and comes up with their own domestic brand.
Yeah. But that number is also going to grow too. I think it's BYD from memory is currently investigating space in that same area of Thailand. A whole number of other brands are as well. So they could very well become our biggest supplier of new cars. Might even have it to Japan.
Yep. Now, so Richard's story does a bit of a rundown as much about ownership of car brands as it is about location for manufacturing. And there are a few that we know all about, Mini, traditionally British to its bootstraps, but of course is owned by BMW and built all over the place, including China. You go to MG. Now, this one's a little more transparent in that, yes, MG of old was very much the British brand, but it's owned and the cars are built in China. I think they have a head office, a headquarters in London, tally ho and all that, but the cars are made in China,
James,
Thailand, and India.
I don't know that it's that transparent. I remember being at an MG launch recently, and I asked the question. I said, is there a stigma attached to made in China, for this British brand, and all your cars, our cars anyway, are coming out of China? They said, no, nobody cares where car brands are from. Doesn't mean anything anymore. I said, oh, okay, fair enough. Then they gave us a little press kit in a bag. The bag was covered in British flags. I was like, oh, no one cares.
Yeah. We'll get to the no one cares bit in the news segment. We've got some updates on that, but that's interesting for sure. Okay, another one, Volvo. As Richard has put it, Swedish as aberrant flat pack furniture. But of course, it's owned by Geely, which is another Chinese giant. And that seems to have been a successful relationship over now a long period of time.
It has never been, I would argue, Volvo's never been a better brand than it is now under Geely's ownership.
Yeah, I think it's basically large influx of cash to develop the cars that they want to develop, because you looked at the way, sadly, Saab just went the way of the dodo when General Motors bought it and didn't really know what to do with it. I think Geely at least has allowed the people that run Volvo to make the cars that they want to make in a Volvo way rather than modify their behavior at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Now, what's the next one we've got? Volvo. Land Rover. There's another one. Land Rover. Who do you think of? Queenie, goodbye
Salute.
to her, sadly. But
Bond.
yeah, various others. Wartime work. But it's owned by India's Tata, which is just a huge conglomerate that makes cars for the domestic market, but also owns Land Rover and I want to say Jaguar. So they're made there. The Nitra plant in Slovakia makes the Discovery and Defender.
Yeah.
Changshu plant also produces Discovery and Evoque, and the Pune plant in India makes the Discovery Sport and Evoque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see what happens there with Jaguar. They're kind of nowhere at the moment, so they could use a bit of an influx of cash themselves, I would have thought.
I think so. Jaguar seems to be a company that's caught, yes, in a state of flux. They've professed their desire to become 100% EV, but that takes a lot of engineering and development work, and it's not exactly happening overnight, is it?
No, not at all.
Now, Volkswagen. Here we go. Volkswagen, of course, owns a multitude of brands: Skoda, Audi, Porsche, Bentley, Bugatti, Lamborghini, of course, VW. There's also, I want to say, Seat is in there, and Cupra, which has just arrived in this market. They've got other industrial brands. It's a huge conglomerate. They've got more than 100 factories in 27 countries, including Germany, Brazil, China, India, the United States, Portugal, Spain, Mexico, South Africa, and Russia. It's world domination. It's the kind of residual effect of Ferdinand Piëch wanting to dominate the automotive world. It's quite incredible.
And you think about the South American market in particular when it comes to Volkswagen, they're pretty dominant down there with really old new cars like the Volkswagen Gol and all those tiny little pickups that they build. Peugeot's the same. They build a lot of market-specific cars for the South American or Latin markets. And yeah, it's crazy to think how big that group is. But like you say, James, even in Europe, you think about where they've got bases in Europe. Skoda obviously the Czech dominant brand.
Yeah.
Then you've got Cupra for Spain. So, and Volkswagen's pretty much everywhere else, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, you talk about South America. The historical thing there was, putting boots on cars, like putting a weird little trunk on the back of a Polo or something. And also, they were onto ethanol many decades ago, and I think they called it gasohol.
Yeah.
So Volkswagen was producing engines ready to run on ethanol forever ago, and that was their initiative in South America, Brazil specifically, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, now where are we up to? Volkswagen, Rolls-Royce. Now, does it come any more British than Rolls-Royce?
No.
And of course, BMW made a deal with Volkswagen in 1998 to split Rolls-Royce away from Bentley. And so which way does it go? BMW owns Rolls-Royce and Volkswagen owns Bentley.
Yeah.
But they're still English, aren't they? Rollers are still made in the UK, I'm sure.
Are they ever? They're made in Goodwood, in a very modern factory in Goodwood in England. So again, it's a case of, look, here's the funding, you do what you do, and we'll let you get on with it.
Yeah, right.
So, and it's great in a way for people who like to look back on automotive history. Bentley and Rolls-Royce going together seemed like such a forced fit. You know, they were just different badges and wheel covers on the same car. And now they've both been able to go down their own path. I think it's fantastic for people that are into those ultra luxury cars. It's brilliant.
Yeah, look, and I'll say I've never, ever been into those ultra luxury cars. And thank you, James, for clarifying that they were the same cars, just with different badges, because I've always looked at them and gone, is that a Bentley or is that a Rolls-Royce?
Well, that's right.
Annoyed
That's
JC
right.
because you had to buy one of each, which is...
Well, look, I can tell you that when I road tested the Ghost a couple of years ago, I gave it 10 out of 10 for value. No, you're paying through the nose, but you're getting that umpteenth attention to detail.
I just drove the Phantom Series 2 recently. It is seriously special. I mean, they lay claim to making the world's best car, and to be honest, it's kind of hard to argue in a lot of ways.
Exactly. It'd be an interesting debate in and of itself. Now, Rolls-Royce, Jeep. Now, Chesto, you've got a little bit of history with this brand in past lives. But, of course, the parent company is American, Italian, and French.
Yeah.
So because Stellantis combines all of those Italian Fiat and everything that goes with it, as well as what was formerly PSA, so Peugeot and Citroën and DS and various others, as well as Jeep and Chrysler and goodness knows what else.
Dodge and all the rest, yeah.
So they've got, Jeeps still made mainly in the United States, but they're also made in 10 plants in 6 different countries: Mexico, Brazil, Italy, China, India, the list goes on. So that's an interesting one as well.
Yeah. But you think when you go to the States, they're very much home country Jeep people. You don't see too many Renegades and things like that getting around, But Jeep guys, small SUVs, Europe.
The little Renegade was made in Italy, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
For a while. Yeah. It's no longer in this market, but yeah, that was made in Italy.
Came down the same line as the Fiat 500X.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you said that you don't see many of those in America. You don't see many of those anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, that's a good point. Yeah.
I still think it's a cute little thing.
I don't mind.
So do I.
Yeah, I think, Chesto, you and I attended the launch of that car in the States.
We probably did. Yeah,
we did. Anyway, look, also, one little syndrome I wanted to call out, and it does go to, does it matter where a car is made? The sneaky kind of midlife production switch. Volvo seems to be good at this. In 2019, the XC60 started out in Torslanda in Sweden and then changed to Chengdu in China. And the XC40 in 2018 started out in Ghent in Belgium and then switched to Lakiao in China. So you just wonder whether there was, okay, now we can sharpen the pencil, the car's in market, we've got the first flush of buyers who have to have it. Yeah. We can make it in a slightly more cost-efficient way.
Just long enough to answer the question at the launch. So where's this built? Oh, this one's made in
That's
Belgium.
Right.
All right, then you're straight away shifted.
That's right. All right, that's good. So there it is. Richard's story is up on the site if you want to get into all the detail, but I suppose it just goes to show that it is a pretty tangled web, and somehow it works, and the cars that we receive are made all over the world. So
and in fact, in September, the 3 best-selling cars in Australia were made in Thailand, and China. So it's, I think this idea of it being a German car, or a Japanese car, or anything else, long out the window.
That's a good point. That's a good point. All right, now let's move on. We are going to move to this week in news.
Ooh.
Great. So this week in news, we've just been talking about China, Matt. We've had a story that has created something of a click frenzy. Can you give us a top line on it, please?
Okay, it's written by one of our contributors, Tony O'Kane. Everyone needs to just chill out about Chinese cars is the title. Fantastic title, and really sums up the idea of this opinion piece from Tony. The notion is, whenever we publish anything or write anything about a Chinese car, there's seems to be a keyboard warrior tribe out there that is just ready to attack at any moment when they see Chinese car or review of a Chinese car. And if it happens to be, a Chinese car that's not actually that bad, then there's a lot of hate. And it's funny because it's almost like there's also the defender team that will defend anything that's been made in China.
Right.
Fair enough. Maybe they're those 10-cent army, I think they're called. But
yeah, that's right.
I think the gist of it is that Chinese cars are here. They're not going anywhere. And Australian customers just need to be understanding of the fact that this is probably actually going to be something we see more of, not less of. I know, Chesto, you've done another piece recently about the fact that there's a good chance your next car will be Chinese. There's no doubt about it that this has created something of a wave of interest.
Yeah, and if you're into that kind of masochism, you can dive into the comments as well, because it's almost as entertaining as Tony's story.
Yeah, we moderate them heavily. But
it's a fair warning. That is a fair warning.
I would just advise chilling the hell out too. Just for the record, every car that comes through the CarsGuide garage gets treated with exactly the same brush, no matter where it's from or who owns it.
Yeah.
Also, those of us with long enough memories will remember people kind of felt this way about Japanese cars for a while. They felt this way about Korean cars for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now they feel this way about Chinese cars. The times they change. Get on board.
They do. Thank you, Matt. Now, speaking of Japanese cars, Chesto, Toyota, they've got a bit of history now with hybrid, quite a history. But this is this story. It's your story. Is about a different kind of hybrid.
Yeah, and look, I wrote an opinion piece today about this very thing, about the doomsday for diesel dual cabs is nigh. Look, there's no doubt that diesel is going the way of the dodo, slowly but surely. And one of the few industries in Australia, one of the few market segments in Australia that continues to really prop it up is dual cab utes. Now, we've seen the LDV ET60 is going to launch in Australia in September. That's electric. We've seen Ford go back to petrol in some of its models. We're talking that Mitsubishi Triton's talking about going plug-in hybrid. Nissan is talking about going e-power with its Navara. So the whole idea here is that, is there really a way to save diesel, or do we have to go in an entirely new direction? Well, it appears that Toyota's answer is going to be to try and save diesel. There's reports, really credible reports, in fact, out of Japan, that the next Fortuner is going to be equipped with a 48-volt mild hybrid diesel engine.
Yep.
Attached to the same 2.8-litre diesel that we all know and love already.
Yeah.
And then further to that, there's reports that they are actually just working on a straight diesel electric powertrain, which will be used specifically for their commercial vehicles and some of their more off-road focused SUVs. So early days, check out the story for all the details, but it does certainly appear that Toyota's at least trying to extend the life of diesel a little bit longer.
Super interesting. That's great. I mean, for history buffs, General Motors made lots and lots of money out of providing diesel electric powertrains for trains back in the immediately pre and post war. So, diesel electric technology has been around for some time. So that's cool. Good. Thank you. Now, speaking of alternate power, Richard has written another story, battery breakthrough, and he's saying that this could mean electric cars could be charged in as little as 3 minutes. People from Adden Energy, which are mainly propeller heads out of Harvard University that have created a commercial entity. Solid state lithium battery, not ions through electrolyte, liquid or gel. There are direct comments from the CEO and developers, plus more tech detail. And again, lots of enthusiastic comments about along the lines of, here we go again, solid state, why isn't it working, etc. But it is a thought-provoking story, and there are a lot of good comments. So I'd recommend people get along there and have a read.
It's coming. All that stuff is coming, whether it's or solid state or something else. I think we will look at the EVs of 2022 like we look at Model Ts in 10 years,
Yeah. Well, this one's called solid state lithium metal battery. So forget the lithium ion, lithium metal. So that's the difference. It's solid and it can take a lot of charging very quickly.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Now we are going to move to cars in the garage. Right. The actual cars that we've been driving, not just talking about, we've been steering them. And Chesto, I'd like to start with you, please. And it's absolutely pertinent to some of the conversation that we've just had, the vehicle that you've been in.
Yes, I'm driving the MG, Chinese, not British, plug-in hybrid, the HS, they call it. It's quite, I think this is genius, actually. I think there's a bit of a stigma attached to the term plug-in hybrid or PHEV, that it's like, it's not quite an EV or whatever. So they call theirs the HS plus EV.
All right.
Suggesting, you get even more than a traditional hybrid. It's not particularly cheap. It's 51,690, but that's drive away pricing.
All right.
It pairs a 1.5 litre turbo petrol with a 90 kilowatt electric motor. The battery on board is 16.6 kilowatt hours, no solid state, obviously, and it'll give you a 63 kilometer driving range.
Yep.
Pure EV. Now, remember, the average Australian, I think from memory, drives somewhere in the vicinity of 37 kilometers a day from work. So if you were to plug in every night, conceivably you could have an EV lifestyle, unless you wanted to go further afield.
Yep.
And yeah, look, plugged into a 7 kilowatt wall box, they reckon it'll take 5 hours to recharge. So easily overnight if you've got a wall box, right? So I've had it for a little while now, and I've been sort of testing it out. The first period I spent with it how I suspect a lot of people who buy a plug-in hybrid live with it, i.e. the vehicle comes charged, runs out of battery. That's the last time they see a plug. That's right. It just drives like a normal SUV, right? Yeah. So I did that for a little while, and I was getting like, high 9s, early 10s per litre 100 fuel, right?
Yep.
And I said, okay, now I'm going to drive it. I'm going to charge it religiously every night, and I'm going to drive it as a hybrid. So I'm not going to go to EV mode. I'm going to let the car figure out the best thing to do. And then the fuel use dropped to sort of high 6s, which is pretty good for a car that size.
Sure.
Then I said, okay, now here's a real test. I'm going to continue plugging in every night, and I'm going to drive it in pure EV mode, and I'm going to see how that works, only to discover the EV mode's broken. So I haven't had to do that yet. Every time I push the button, I get an error message saying this service isn't available, no matter how charged the battery is, no matter what the conditions I'm in. So I've got to put it all into MG and figure out what the hell's going on. Okay. It might be, full disclosure, it might be user error. Yeah. Although I even went to the extent of I won't read an owner's manual for love nor money. But I was getting YouTube instructions on how to activate it, and didn't work. So I'll figure out what's going on there. But at the moment, it's the EV mode is a no go.
To be continued.
To be continued. But apart from that, it's a pretty easy to live with SUV. To be perfectly honest, it doesn't exactly blow your socks off in terms of performance or coolness or excitement. Neither does it really let you down in many places. There's plenty of room, quite comfortable.
Okay.
One downside is that the infotainment system, and in fact the system to control anything in the car, is mind-bogglingly slow. Like hit a button, pause, wait for a couple of seconds, pops up. Okay, now I can. So that is frustrating. That's my major downside at the moment.
Borderline safety issue. Yes.
Yeah. Mostly because I'll kill someone if it continues.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you for that, Chesto. Now, on family duty, this car, Matt, and it'll get the family there fast.
Yeah, it's the Subaru WRX sports wagon. I've got the top spec, the TS. I like that it's the TS and that stands for top spec. It doesn't, but it's about 57,000.
Could stand for something else, but anyway, I won't say that.
Yeah, it's $57,000. So, and that's before on-road costs. So it's not a cheap family wagon. You consider it against the likes of a Skoda Octavia RS or maybe an entry-level Volkswagen Arteon, something like that.
Yep.
Not exactly cheap. It's not the menacing WRX of days gone by. I wrote in my initial installment, my first installment for this piece was basically that if you're thinking that this is a WRX, that lives up to the traditional values of WRXs, being that they grab you by the scruff of the neck and throw you around and, you get out of it feeling more exhausted than when you got in. That's not the case here. It's a very comfortable, composed, relaxing, nice thing to drive. The TS comes with a bunch of different drive modes, including a Sport Plus mode and an individual mode. So you can basically tailor the suspension, steering, drivetrain, adaptive cruise control, safety systems, all that to your preferences. And there are different profiles that you can set for driver and a different driver as well. It uses a camera to detect your face and go, oh, you're Matt. This is how we set you up.
I think I've just worked out why Chesto's car isn't going towards EV mode. It just can't handle his face. It's got that face recognition software and won't let him drive an EV. Sorry, cool. Sorry.
Yeah, so I will say that it is a very nice car to drive. I haven't really, as a family car, with my baby in the back and my partner in the front seat most of the time, I haven't really wrung its neck, but I don't really feel like I need to. I did a little bit of that at the launch event for this car, and I got a good feel for what it's like. If you want the really, really sporty WRX experience, you have to buy the sedan because it's set up differently and it feels more sporty. Right. And also the sedan you can get with a manual transmission, and that's what I would want if I was going to buy a WRX. So gotcha. Having said that, I'm enjoying it. I've had it for about 6 weeks now, and put about 3,000 kilometers on it in that period. So enjoying it a lot.
How many installments on the site so far?
One so far.
One so far.
Second one's coming in about a fortnight.
Very soon. Okay, so people can stay in touch with how you're going with it. That's perfect. Okay, thank you for that. I'll finish this off. I've been in what is variously called the Genesis G80 Electrified or the Genesis Electrified G80. Either way, the name tells it all. It's a luxury 4-door sedan, 145k, dual motors, so it's all-wheel drive, 272 kilowatts, 700 Newton meters. On the plus side, Richard Berry asked me what I thought of it. He'd been driving it, and I quoted Edna Mode from The Incredibles. I said, it's smooth as the finest Egyptian cotton. It's just, and it's also just loaded. It looks sleek. It is fast, 4.9 seconds, so a sub 5, 0 to 100 figure. 520 kilometer range, impeccable build quality and finishing. It's got a solar roof, which I think is a really nice touch. And I think that price is aggressive. It's a lot of money, but $145,000 for this kind of car is pretty competitive.
I have one question before you move on, JC.
Yeah.
What do you mean by solar roof?
It's a panel in there that actually makes a contribution to the battery storage, not a huge one, but I think it'll keep some of the ancillaries running and stop it drain on the main battery. So, and it also looks cool. It looks, first glance you go, is that carbon fiber? But no, it's just solar panels.
And so there's no sunroof or anything, obviously. It's a fixed panel across the...
fixed panel across the roof.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, sorry, carry on.
That's okay. On the minus side, it's 5 meters long and 2.3 tons, and it kind of feels it. But that's the nature of this kind of car. The one we had is white leather and has what they're calling forged wood. I, for the life of me, couldn't find out what forged wood is, but I don't like the look of it. And that's just a subjective thing. But I think...
I don't know what it is, but I hate it.
I don't like it. So in summary, I think this car leverages the advantages of electric in a large luxury sedan perfectly. It's quiet, it's smooth, it's powerful, it's serene. There's even active noise road cancellation. So you're just in this cocoon in the car, and you'd be paying another 100K to get into an S-Class Merc, for example. You know, you're well under the money for those traditional players in the luxury market. So I think it's keenly priced, and that's Genesis' thing. You know, we'll give you the quality for a better price. So I enjoyed driving it, as Richard did, I must say. He loved it. So there you go. And with that, we have reached the finish line. So I want to say thanks to all our listeners and viewers, and thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
And thank you, Chesto.
Thank you, everyone.
And well done to our production guru, Mr. Brett Sullivan. He's always been a big fan of forced induction, a fact borne out by the T-shirt he's wearing, which says turbo lag, giving the naturally aspirated cars an extra second of false hope. Jump into the conversation. Cars Guide's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Or traditionalists can email us at comments@carsguide.com.au. Listeners, please take a moment to rate and review the show. 5 stars would be great. An update for listeners. We believe we're back on track with Apple Podcasts. Fingers crossed. Let's see how we go. Thank you, Mr. Pritchard, for all of that wrangling. Viewers, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the Cars Guide channel so you can stay on top of all our latest content. But before we go, a mate of mine was about to pass through Broken Hill on his way from Adelaide to Sydney. Sees a sign in front of a shed on the outskirts of town, talking dog for sale. He's intrigued and he's made good time, so he stops. Old mate appears and tells him the dog's around the back. My mate ducks around and sees a nice-looking Labrador sitting there. You talk? He asks. Yep, the Labrador replies. After he recovers from the shock of hearing a dog talk, my mate says, so what's your story? The lab looks up and says, well, I discovered I could talk when I was pretty young. I wanted to help the government, so I got in touch with ASIO. In no time, they had me jetting around the globe, sitting in rooms with spies and world leaders because no one thought a dog could be eavesdropping. I was one of their most valuable agents. But after a while, the travel got to me. I wasn't getting any younger, so I landed a job at the airport doing undercover security, wandering near suspicious characters and listening in, uncovered some incredible dealings and was awarded a bunch of medals. I got hooked up, had a mess of puppies, and now I'm just retired. My mate's amazed. He goes back and asks the owner what he wants for the dog. $10, he says. $10? That dog is incredible. Why on earth are you selling him so cheaply? Because he's a bullshitter. He's never been out of the yard.
I'm slightly concerned the jokes are just a little longer than the podcast now.
It was worth it though.